Imagine a volcano stirring beneath your feet, silent for centuries, its melting heart hidden deep in the earth, until one day the ground trembles and the night air fills with the smell of fire. Geologists once declared it cold and lifeless, but now every rising rumble signals an irreversible tremor, reshaping valleys and creating brand new landscapes. Just like that, the forces that are secretly coalescing around your life are accumulating heat and force. Nothing can stay the same. Be prepared. Write 88 in the comments. Now don't just be a spectator, be part of the story. With your support, we will become a giant family of 5,000 people. Subscribe now, turn on notifications and join us. Because the sleeping energy of your calling is getting ready to explode, and everything you create will be transformed in the flames of the fire of destiny. It's like standing in a quiet room and suddenly hearing the distant sound of thunder rolling in from the horizon. At first, it's faint, just a low rumble that most folks would ignore. But before long, the windows begin to shake and the very foundation beneath your feet starts to tremble. You realize what's coming can't be turned away, bargained with, or swept aside. Just as rain will eventually find every crack in the earth and water the roots beneath the surface, there are moments in life when destiny shows up with a force that's impossible to deny. The sky darkens, the air thickens, and suddenly, what's been hidden below rises with a power that turns the ordinary upside down. Sometimes the winds of change come out of nowhere, unannounced, sweeping away old dust and leaving everything feeling cleaner, clearer, different. The events now unfolding aren't just more noise in the background. They're the main event, the lightning that splits the sky and calls everyone to attention. This is not the kind of drama that can be ignored or postponed. It's a divine reckoning, a rebalancing of all that's been crooked, a moment when what's been building behind the scenes finally comes to center stage. Imagine a river that's been dammed up for years. On the surface, everything looks calm. Folks walk by and see a gentle pond, never realizing that underneath, pressure is mounting, water is searching for a way through. All it takes is one small shift, a single stone out of place, and the flood comes pouring forth, unstoppable, cleansing, and true. That's how it feels when God decides the time for waiting is over, when heaven's verdict echoes through the earth and shakes everything that's been holding you back. All the resistance, all the plotting, all the false agreements made in secret can't stand against the tide that's been gathering for this very hour. Those who thought they could write their own rules, who tried to stack the deck against you, now find themselves standing in water that's rising by the minute. Every move they made thinking they'd escape the consequences is now swept up in the current. There's no negotiation, no last-minute bargain, no secret tunnel out of what's coming. It's a closing of accounts, a divine settling of scores, and no one can dodge what's already been set in motion. This isn't just about justice, it's about restoration. When life turns upside down and the old order is washed away, a new landscape is revealed. Hidden seeds start to sprout. New opportunities begin to appear, sometimes in places you never thought to look. The past may have been marked by delay and disappointment, but this moment is about renewal, about stepping into a chapter that's already been written with your name on it. What's been denied, delayed, or withheld is now flowing freely, washing away every doubt, every limitation, every lie spoken over your future. The truth is, the greatest shifts in life often come in the quiet before the storm. You may have felt the pressure building, the tension in the air, but nothing could prepare you for the breakthrough that's about to flood your life. The ones who doubted you, who underestimated your resolve, are about to see that it was never just you standing there. It was the power of destiny moving on your behalf, a force that cannot be bribed, slowed, or controlled. This is the hour when the tide turns, not just for you but for every soul who's been waiting for a fresh start. The doors that have been closed with iron locks are creaking open. The ground that once seemed barren is now fertile and ready for a new harvest. Old debts are being paid, wrongs are being righted, and every investment made in tears is about to yield a harvest of joy. So when you hear the thunder rolling in, don't run for cover, stand tall. Lift your head, because what's coming is not to destroy you but to raise you higher, to place you in the position you were always meant to claim. The world may try to hold back the tide, but when God says, enough, nothing can stand in the way of what's been promised to you. Remember, some storms don't come to break you, they come to reveal you. Some floods don't wash you away, they carry you into places your feet could never have reached on their own. The old season has ended. The old score has been settled. And the force moving in your favor is as sure as the dawn, as steady as the river that finally bursts its banks and waters every dry field. It's not just change for the sake of change, it's transformation with a purpose. The world may try to explain it away, but those who live by faith know better. When heaven moves, the earth makes room. The scales are reset, the old agreements are null and void, and every heart that's held on through the dark night is about to see the light break through. This is the moment that redefines the journey. This is the hour when destiny takes the lead, and no power on earth can hold back the tide that's already rolling your way. Imagine a garden just before sunrise, where the morning dew still clings to every blade of grass. In that peaceful moment, all seems calm. But sometimes, beneath the surface, a single seed of jealousy starts to germinate, quiet, unnoticed, sending out roots that twist and turn. It doesn't need applause or an audience. It grows silently, feeding off glances and whispered comparisons at every gathering, whether it's a Sunday service or a family meal. You can be surrounded by laughter, music, and familiar faces, yet somewhere in the shadows, an old ache takes hold. There's always someone at the edge of the room, watching the way light lands on another's shoulders, feeling a subtle sting at every word of praise not sent their way. They study your every move, your smallest blessings, your quiet victories, thinking if they just get close enough, your favor might rub off on them. But what they don't understand is that the oil poured over your life was never meant to be passed from hand to hand like a borrowed jacket. It was forged in a furnace they never saw and paid for with a price only you could afford. While some are content to clap for others, envy is never satisfied with applause. It wants the spotlight, the crown, the story, but not the sweat, the wounds, or the lonely nights behind the scenes. It slips in quietly, an extra long stare, a tight smile, a question asked with too much interest. It tries to claim what was not planted, like someone gathering fruit from a tree they never tended, hoping its sweetness will somehow belong to them. But you can't inherit a harvest you didn't sow. When envy grows, it becomes a storm that sweeps through relationships, uprooting trust, and scattering peace. The one reaching for your blessing is like a thirsty traveler trying to drink from a mirage, only to find sand slipping through their fingers. The closer they chase what makes you shine, the more it slips away, because true greatness is rooted in battles fought in secret, tears dried in prayer, and faith that held strong in the wilderness. The truth is, your story is more than just the glow on the surface. It's the fire that refined you when nobody else was looking. Favor isn't a fragrance you can spray on. It's an aroma that rises from the altar of private sacrifice. Every time envy tries to build a shortcut to glory, it finds the road blocked by invisible walls. Walls built from every night you held on, every day you gave when you had nothing left. There's no life hack for endurance, no fast forward for spiritual authority. What was grown in the hidden place can't be harvested by those who only want the results without the journey. And so, those who set out to bottle your light often find themselves chasing shadows. The harder they grasp, the emptier their hands become. They end up spinning in circles, looking for joy in another's shoes, losing sight of their own purpose and the unique blessing meant for them. It's not punishment, but a lesson written into the fabric of the universe. You can't steal the sunrise, you have to wait through the night for it. If you've ever felt the eyes of envy on your back, remember this: no one can take what God has poured into you. Your journey is sealed with a signature that can't be forged. While others are chasing after borrowed glory, keep tending your own field, keep showing up for the daily work, keep praising in private. The roots you've put down in secret are what hold you steady when the storm comes. And the peace you've found along the way is the very thing those searching eyes can never touch, no matter how close they try to get. So let your story keep shining. Let your light rise with the dawn, not because you fought for the spotlight, but because you stood faithful in the shadows. As the garden wakes and the world sees what's in bloom, let every blossom be a testimony, not just of beauty, but of every hard season, every act of obedience, every silent victory that made it possible. What is real can't be taken. What is earned in the spirit is always safe, no matter who's watching. Imagine someone standing at the bottom of a tall mountain, looking up at the summit where the sunlight dances on the snow. Instead of tying their boots and preparing for the long climb, they search for a hidden elevator or a secret shortcut, hoping to reach the peak without the strain, the sweat, or the aching muscles. But what they find isn't a smooth ride to the top. It's a maze of winding passages, doors that lead nowhere, and staircases that loop right back to the beginning. The mountain doesn't give up its view to those who won't make the journey. There's no way around the struggle, only through it. That's how life works when it comes to true blessing and spiritual growth. You can't inherit endurance by reaching for what others have earned in the valley of tears. Every shortcut taken, every trick to bypass the climb, only leads deeper into confusion and emptiness. People see the rewards in another's life and imagine the glory, but they don't see the cost. The late nights when prayers felt unanswered, the mornings when hope was just a flicker trying to survive the cold. When someone tries to seize what was formed in the fires of patience and discipline, they end up shouldering burdens that don't belong to them. The victories that looked so easy from a distance come with their own set of battles, struggles that require a strength only forged by walking through storms. It's like slipping into someone else's armor, only to find it too heavy, too sharp, too unfamiliar. The piece they hope to wear becomes a weight pressing down on their chest. Shortcuts often promise a smooth path, but in the end, they're winding trails through a dark forest, full of dead ends and unseen pitfalls. Instead of rest, there's restlessness. Instead of answers, there's a silence that lingers through the night. What looked like an easy win turns out to be a lesson in humility. There is no harvest without planting, no sunrise without enduring the night, no testimony without a test. True wisdom is gathered in places few are willing to go, through seasons of sacrifice, through lonely roads where faith is all you have to lean on. It can't be bought, borrowed, or stolen. The ones who try to sidestep the process soon find themselves lost in a maze of their own making. The more they avoid the honest work of growing, the deeper they wander into the wilderness, searching for light with a map that leads in circles. If you ever feel tempted to envy someone else's breakthrough, remember the ground they covered to get there. The price they paid in secret, the night spent holding on to hope when everything said quit. The blessings that shine brightest were polished by perseverance, not plucked by chance. The journey may be long, but every step taken in truth lays down a stone on the path you'll walk for years to come. So don't fear the mountain or the hard road. Don't look for a shortcut through the process. Embrace the climb, knowing that every challenge shapes you, every valley teaches you, and every sunrise at the top is worth the sweat that brought you there. The ones who reach for greatness without the grind only find shadows. They inherit the echoes, never the song. But those who trust the journey and surrender to the lessons will find the view at the top is theirs, and no one can take it away. Think of a young tree planted out on the edge of a rocky field. No gardener came by to build a fence or put down rich soil. Instead, every wind, every passing storm, every animal searching for shelter became part of that tree's early life. The roots had to dig deep for water. The trunk had to bend with the gusts or risk snapping in two. In the world's eyes, maybe it looked lonely or out of place. But what nobody saw was the quiet miracle happening underground, strength being built in secret, endurance seeping into every cell. That's how it is for those whose calling was never announced with fanfare. There was no velvet invitation, no guiding hand to smooth the way. Some are launched not from comfort, but from the middle of uncertainty, where every day feels like walking a tightrope with no net, where home isn't a place, but a question that never quite gets answered. While others laughed in cozy circles, there was always one heart that listened to laughter as if through a window, standing just outside the warmth. The world teaches us that belonging should come easy, that family and friendship ought to be simple. But some souls were signed up for a higher curriculum, a course in resilience written in the margins of ordinary life. They learned to eat their bread in silence, to treasure every sunrise that found them still standing. Every room that overlooked them, every hand not offered, became a silent teacher, forging lessons that textbooks could never hold. Those early years, when the crowd pressed close, but nobody reached out, became the anvil where character was hammered out. Every cold shoulder, every forgotten invitation, was another swing of the blacksmith's mallet shaping purpose into something that couldn't be bent by public opinion. Strength took root in secret, like that tree finding water deep in the rock. This kind of hardship is never random. It's a masterclass that only the chosen are enrolled in, and the tuition is paid in tears no one else will ever see. What looks like abandonment is often the beginning of a deeper training. You learn the language of faith, of pressing on when there's no applause, of trusting that your voice matters even if it's only heard by heaven. It's not about proving your worth to a crowd, it's about discovering it for yourself in the quiet between storms. Every lonely meal, every night spent staring at the ceiling and wondering why me, was a lesson in spiritual self-sufficiency. The wisdom born in those moments can't be taught by any preacher or handed down by any mentor. It's carved into your story, woven into your DNA, as much a part of you as your own heartbeat. You learn to stand tall not because someone held you up, but because every trial whispered, "Stand anyway." What was once pain becomes power. The very spaces that felt empty now echo with a new song, the music of someone who survived what was meant to break them. Approval from the crowd fades, but the wisdom of the lonely road never leaves you. The classroom of hardship taught you the language of resilience, how to turn tears into prayers, and setbacks into comebacks, how to see hope in the shadows and beauty in the broken places. So, if your calling arrived not with a gentle nudge but with a shove into the unknown, know that you're not less than, you're more. The lessons you learned in the absence of comfort became your wings. The roots that held you fast in the storm are what will lift you higher than those who only knew fair weather. You didn't just survive, you grew strong, steady, and unshakable, prepared for a purpose no one else could carry. That's the gift of the hard beginning. The crowd may never understand, but heaven does. And every hard-earned truth, every quiet victory, is recorded in a book that can't be lost or erased. The storms you weathered made you the shelter for others. The questions that went unanswered became the wisdom that will guide you forward. And the strength that was built in secret will now be the foundation for every blessing still to come. Imagine someone trying to enter a locked garden by rattling the gate, hoping a few polite words or a practiced smile will open the way. The garden looks peaceful from outside, rows of roses, cool shade, fruit ripe for picking. But what the onlooker doesn't see is the sign on the gate that reads, "Private, entry by invitation only." They think a borrowed password, a whispered rumor, or a quick fix will grant them access. But the gardener knows the difference between a guest and an intruder. There are some places where you don't just stroll in, you're called, you're welcomed, and you're changed by the journey. That's how it is with true purpose. You can't buy it at the market or imitate it from a distance. It isn't handed out with a handshake or traded like a secret recipe. Too many folks think that conflict can be swept away with surface-level words, as if pain can be bandaged over and boundaries redrawn with a few rehearsed lines. But calling has a price tag written in invisible ink, and only those who have paid it know what it really costs. Purpose is not a mask to put on at parties or a costume to be rented for a weekend. It's a garment that's fitted to you alone, stitched together by sleepless nights and hard decisions nobody applauded. It's made from the fabric of scars, woven together by the times you sat in silence, desperate for a word from heaven, when the world offered you nothing but more questions. Those who've never walked through the fire believe they can just mimic your movements, speak your language, or repeat your rituals to get what you carry. They read the lines but never feel the weight. They shadowbox with destiny, not knowing that the real battle happened when the lights were off and the audience was gone. What was given to you was never about performance. It was about perseverance, about staying when leaving was easier, about trusting the process when all you had was faith and a whisper. People on the sidelines underestimate what it takes to step into the life you live. They see the fruit but not the pruning, the crown but not the crushing. Apologies that only go skin deep don't repair what was broken by those who crossed lines meant to protect, not exclude. Boundaries exist for a reason. Some things are sacred, some callings are guarded, and some gifts are reserved for those who survived the test. Real destiny isn't borrowed, it's branded on your soul. It can't be transferred, traded, or faked. It comes alive in moments when you're certain nobody is listening, and it grows every time you choose truth over comfort, sacrifice over show. The most important chapters in your story are written when the world is silent and only God knows you're still holding on. So, let others rattle the gates and try their shortcuts. Let them speak empty words and toss around easy answers. The ones who are truly chosen know that access is granted, not grabbed. The invitation comes through the trials endured, the boundaries honored, and the wisdom born from wounds that have finally healed. The harvest belongs to those who dared to wait, to work, and to trust that what's meant for them cannot be imitated or stolen. Picture a well that's been dug deep into the ground. Before a single drop ever rises to quench a thirst, someone spent years chipping away at hard earth and stone, lowering the bucket down into darkness, working blind and hoping that water waits below. Nobody lines up to praise the digger during the long days of labor. They only come running once the water's flowing. But the real treasure isn't in the bucket pulled up for show. It's in the living spring that keeps on giving, day after day, no matter how many buckets are drawn. That's how it is with real blessing and spiritual authority. The depth isn't in what you see above the ground or what you can take at a glance. It's in all the hidden hours, the secret prayers, the unseen battles that carved out room for the blessing in the first place. Some folks think they can borrow strength by snapping up what's visible. An idea here, a phrase there, a piece of your story as if it's just another trinket on a shelf. But just like drawing water from a well you didn't dig, you can only take so much before it runs dry. What many don't realize is that true growth, real wisdom, and lasting favor are built beneath the surface, where nobody's looking. The roots of a mighty life run deep, twisting through seasons of loneliness, loss, and persistence. That's why you can't inherit endurance by taking a shortcut or grabbing hold of someone else's success. You might get a souvenir, a broken branch, a splash of water, but you'll never touch the source. The well won't flow for just anybody. It's easy to reach for the fruit without respecting the root, to covet the shade without understanding the storms that forced those roots deeper. When someone tries to pluck blessing off another's tree, all they get is a handful of leaves, gone with the next wind. They don't realize the cost of those strong branches, the sleepless nights that nourished every new ring of growth. The most they can ever hold is the aftermath, never the abundance. God doesn't measure blessing by what's visible to the world. He measures it by the depth of your well, the faith that kept you digging when hope ran low, the persistence that refused to stop when progress felt invisible. You can't bottle that or pass it around. The gift is locked to the journey, sealed to the soul that kept digging even when the world walked away. So let others chase after what's easy to see. Let them gather branches and broken pieces, mistaking scraps for treasure. You know better. You know the living water only rises for the one who showed up, day after day, shovel in hand, refusing to quit. The well that never runs dry is a reward for those who trusted there was something waiting below, even when nobody else believed. If you want what lasts, what matters, what transforms not just a day but a destiny, go deep. Don't settle for what you can take in a moment. Invest in what takes a lifetime to build. For in the quiet places, when no one's watching, heaven is watching. And the roots you've put down in the dark will sustain you in the light, no matter who else comes looking for the fruit. Think of a lamp burning quietly in the window on a long, cold night. The oil that feeds the flame isn't poured in at the last minute or borrowed from a neighbor. It's gathered little by little, pressed from olives in seasons of waiting, stored up in jars during unseen years. To outsiders, it looks like the glow is easy, that all it takes is striking a match. But what they don't see is the work, the patience, and the faith that made that light possible. Spiritual connection is the same way. You can't just throw it on like a jacket or hang it around your neck like a new medal. It's something woven into you, fused into your heart over years of pressing through darkness and choosing trust when everything in you wants to give up. It's not something you put on for others to admire, it's what keeps you warm when the night is at its coldest. Those who only care about looking the part are left shivering, confused why the same light won't shine for them. Plenty of people will try to imitate what they see on the outside, hoping to catch a little bit of your fire. They might memorize the lines, mimic the gestures, or try to step into your shoes for a day. But when the pressure hits, when life squeezes, what's real and what's just a performance become plain as day. The ones who tried to snatch the blessing without paying the price soon discover they picked up a load they were never ready to carry. It's easy to skim the cover of someone's story and imagine you know the whole journey. Folks will see your joy, your peace, the answered prayers and open doors, and think they can copy-paste your results. What they never count is the cost, the tears behind the testimony, the setbacks behind the smile, the faith that held you together when nobody else could see your struggle. The sacred connection you have didn't come from a book or a class. It came from walking out your faith, one hard season at a time. Some chase after titles, hoping a little shine will make up for the emptiness inside. But true favor isn't about what's pinned to your chest, it's about what's settled deep inside your spirit. If you've spent years storing up your oil in secret, you know, when storms hit, you don't panic, you just add more oil to the lamp and let it burn. That's the difference the world can't counterfeit. When others reach for what's not theirs, they take home the burdens but not the breakthrough, the weight but not the wisdom. They wanted your story, but not your scars. They thought the blessing was all about the celebration, not realizing it was built in the shadows, in the waiting, in the late-night prayers and the daily choices to trust. So if you feel overlooked or misunderstood, take heart. What's real in you can never be stolen or faked. The oil you've stored up will keep your flame burning through every dark night. The sacred connection you carry is a treasure placed in you by the hand of God Himself, and it can't be worn by anyone else. The light you shine isn't for show, it's for survival, for hope, and for those who need to see that it's possible to make it through the night. Rivalries fueled by jealousy crumble from the inside out. The unity of a group built on common resentment cannot outlast the storm. Where once there was a unified chorus against a single voice, now there is only discord, each note growing more isolated. What looked like wounds inflicted were actually workouts. What seemed like harm was just a harder training regimen, shaping a foundation too strong to be shaken. When balance must be restored, the universe chooses not the path of vengeance but of rebalancing. The consequences that return are not a punishment but a reminder, a lesson played out in real time so all can see the true weight of every choice. It's never about payback, it's about realignment, about the scales that never fail to find their own center, no matter how long they are pushed off balance. Just as a river carves a new course after a landslide, every plot that backfires becomes the current that carries the one who was targeted to a new destination. Strength returns in waves, opportunities spring up where only dust was expected, and every plan designed for delay becomes a jet stream accelerating the journey ahead. The ability to rise, to create, to imagine again is no longer restrained by worry or the need to defend. The focus shifts from survival to innovation. There are those who live from the fear that there is only so much goodness to go around, believing every gain for another is a loss for themselves. They grip tightly to their small piece, only to see it slip away. Yet those who give, who trust in abundance, find that every generous act multiplies. The more that is shared, the more that is created. The energy spent fighting for scraps only guarantees a life of scarcity, while faith in a source that never runs dry rewrites the entire script. The deepest cuts are often dealt by those who should have been healers. When a figure meant to nurture chooses to wound, the very fabric of trust is stretched to breaking. The lesson echoes far beyond the moment of betrayal, creating ripples that demand to be resolved, not just for the sake of the one wronged, but for everyone who witnesses the fallout. The cosmic accounting is precise, restoration is always on the way. Imagine an artist who spent their life painting in light, only to be critiqued by those who never learned the difference between shadow and substance. The sting of rejection becomes the brushstroke of destiny, transforming bitterness into color and envy into canvas. Every attempt to block the sunlight simply highlights the depth of the glow that remains, a reminder that imitation is only ever a shadow of the real. A mind stretched by envy and disappointment eventually cracks. When lessons that were never meant for them arrive at their door, the burden is too heavy, the test too severe. They try to calculate the equation of another's rise, never understanding the formula of faith, hope, and tenacity written over years. The overload is not punishment, but the natural result of trying to build on a foundation not designed for the weight. Groups built on exclusion eventually turn inward. As fortunes fade and reputations tarnish, the circle tightens until all that's left is a memory of the power once held. Each member backs away, leaving the architect of the conflict to face the silence they once sought to impose on another. The isolation is complete, not because of a campaign, but because the structure could not stand without a center. Loss, when transformed, becomes the engine of ascent. Everything poured into creating obstacles becomes the fuel for elevation, every withheld opportunity a gift returned in double. Progress accelerates, dreams materialize, and the outpouring of what was meant for harm turns into a river of opportunity, shifting the future from recovery to prosperity. The scales have tipped, and there is no returning to the former order. Every false claim, every plot, every attempt to undermine now stands as a testament to the unbreakable core within. The journey has changed. The task now is to build, not defend, to gather, not scatter, to serve, not merely survive. The arsenal acquired in pain is now the source of wisdom, healing, and leadership. What began as an attempt to steal ends in a coronation. No trial is wasted, no suffering overlooked. Every plot to diminish results in a double portion. The story moves forward, leaving the struggles as stepping stones to new horizons. The foundation is set, the future is secure. The seat of authority is not inherited by those who scheme, but by those who endure, and the legacy cannot be erased by any hand but will endure as long as purpose itself has breath.